Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something we've probably all experienced, but maybe haven't thought too deeply about: the surprising psychological and physical costs of just talking too much. We'll be basing this entire breakdown on a seriously fascinating text by Udebhan Singh. It's a deep dive into human behavior that actually starts off kind of humorous, but trust me, it quickly reveals some incredibly profound truths about energy, delusion, and the hidden power of silence. So, let's jump right in.
Look, we all know someone who just cannot stop talking, right? The author describes these folks as having this almost metaphorical itch in their mouth. They simply cannot handle sitting in silence. Even if there is absolutely nothing useful to say, they feel this overwhelming, almost physical compulsion to fill the air with empty chatter. And the wild part? They completely ignore social cues, what time of day it is, or even the mood of the room. They just have to scratch that itch.
Just look at the contrast Singh draws here. It's honestly pretty funny, but it totally hits the nail on the head regarding their complete lack of situational awareness. Picture this. You're at a somber condolence gathering, and someone sits right next to you and starts passionately debating the pros and cons of different lemon pickle recipes. I mean, what? Or you're picking up medicine at the pharmacy, and they've cornered some poor guy to argue about whether muslin or velvet shirts are better. Or maybe you're at a courthouse dealing with serious legal matters, and they are loudly explaining why a Humber bicycle is way more durable than a Hercules. It's ridiculous, sure, but it highlights a very real, very deep social blindness.
Section 1. The Trap of Exaggeration, Diluting the Truth.
So why do they do it? Well, this annoying habit goes a lot deeper than just being socially awkward. The reality is, ordinary truth is just too boring to hold an audience hostage for that long. Singh uses this brilliant metaphor. When buttermilk is expanded, water must be added. It makes so much sense. If you insist on talking constantly, you are inevitably going to run out of actual, factual things to say. To keep the conversation going, to keep expanding that buttermilk, you literally have to water it down with lies, exaggerations, and completely fabricated details. You simply cannot talk nonstop and remain strictly truthful.
It's a really slippery slope. Let's map out this descent into delusion. It usually starts innocently enough at step 1, right? You're just speaking to entertain, trying to keep people listening. But because of that buttermilk rule we just talked about, you slide right into step 2, adding lies to make the stories a little spicier. You know, making a mountain out of a molehill. But here is the actual trap, step 3. You start to genuinely believe your own lies. And finally, step 4, you completely lose touch with reality. What started off as a simple conversational crutch morphs into a full-blown psychological trap.
And before you know it, these individuals start injecting themselves into every single topic, creating this fake, worldly persona built entirely on unearned expertise. They'll passionately describe the streets of London, despite never having left their hometown. They'll loudly critique the markets in Mumbai or the structural integrity of ships sailing to Rangoon. They'll confidently pivot from a complex political analysis straight into giving you medical advice. It's wild. Their incomplete knowledge basically becomes the entire foundation for a super arrogant, completely fabricated identity.
Which brings us to Section 2. The cautionary tale and the social reality. To really hammer this concept home, the author shares a striking character study about a boy who inherited this exact habit of boasting, a massive 50 times multiplier. The author describes this boy as working a very small, modest job just to scrape by. But because of his compulsive need to talk and show off, he began exaggerating his status 50 times over. He presented himself as this highly important, wealthy individual. And guys, this wasn't just him telling a fib. It descended into a dangerous, delusional madness where he literally forgot his actual place in the real world.
Now here is the absolute kicker, the profound irony of the whole situation. The text points out the massive, massive gap between what the speaker thinks is happening versus objective reality. The speaker is sitting there thinking, wow, I'm a genius, I'm entertaining everyone, and I've completely fooled them into thinking I'm a big deal. But look at the audience's reality. Unless the audience is completely oblivious, they see right through the whole charade. They don't believe a single lie. They might listen for a minute for some cheap entertainment, but the exact second they get bored, they're out. The speaker is literally the only person in the room actually being fooled.
Because ultimately, perceptive people do not admire the chatterbox. Not at all. They view them as a massive time-wasting liability. The author uses incredibly strong language here, comparing a compulsive, boastful talker to, quote, a contagious disease. People who actually value their time and sanity will eventually shun this person entirely, leaving the chatterbox socially isolated inside their own bubble of delusions.
Moving right along to Section 3, the hidden sunk cost, the energy drain.
Okay, this is where things get really fascinating. We've talked a lot about the social awkwardness, but what about the physical toll? The crucial concept the author introduces here is what he calls body electricity. It's this idea that speaking is absolutely not free. Every single spoken word requires a massive expenditure of your body's physical and mental energy, your vital life force. When you're blabbering endlessly, you aren't just making noise, you are literally draining your own battery.
When you actually break down the cognitive load, it makes total sense why it's so exhausting. Your brain is essentially working in overdrive. It's constantly firing up imagination to invent stories, straining memory to keep track of past lies, managing character creation to maintain this fake persona, all while simultaneously trying to balance real facts and actively hide untruths. I mean, that is an incredibly high-intensity mental workout, and doing it constantly for absolutely no good reason is a massive waste of biological energy.
And that perfectly sets up this incredibly powerful analogy from the text. A man with holes in his pitcher will look around helplessly when thirsty. It makes you think, doesn't it? If you let all your vital energy leak out through endless useless chatter, your pitcher is going to be completely empty. So, when you finally face a difficult task, a real-life problem, or a moment that actually requires deep thought and stamina, you're going to look around helplessly, because you already spent all your energy running your mouth.
If you follow this path of depletion, it's actually a pretty severe medical and psychological warning. In the present, sure, you're just wasting energy on endless chatter. But look at the near future. This text argues that this directly translates into experiencing physical weakness and real brain fog. Your intellect literally starts to dull. And in the long term, the author warns that this relentless expenditure of your body's electricity leads to a reduced life force and premature decline. Compulsive talking, according to this perspective, literally shortens your vibrant lifespan.
Luckily, there is a fix. Section 4. The power of less. Purposeful silence.
Yeah, we definitely aren't going to leave you on a doom and gloom note. The author actually offers a highly effective built-in cure: actively practicing purposeful silence. This kind of silence acts almost like a shield. It naturally hides your personal flaws and any lack of knowledge you might have. But more importantly, it preserves your vital life energy. It completely saves your mental stamina for the crucial work that actually matters in your life. And ultimately, by not draining your battery on useless words, it promotes a long, joyous, and healthy life.
Which leads us to this genuinely beautiful piece of concluding advice from the author. Speak the sweet truth. Speak less. It's just such a simple yet profoundly effective filter for our daily lives. If it isn't true, if it isn't kind, and if it isn't absolutely necessary, just let it go. Save your words, and in doing so, literally save yourself. So as you go about the rest of your day, I want you to ask yourself this final question. How much vital energy could you save today by simply staying quiet? The next time you feel that metaphorical itch in your mouth, the urge to add a completely useless comment, or maybe exaggerate a story just a little bit, take a breath, hold it in, and feel what happens when you actually harness the power of less. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, I highly encourage you to try out a little purposeful silence today.